we now have our wrapped package, and I use this sasheen ribbon. This is old. It was part of my inheritance from my mother. It still works great. There are plenty of other brands out there, C&G, polysatin, whatever you prefer to use. But this is what I use, it's what I have. So we're going to start with our ribbon. Again, I said this was a Christmas package, so we're going to start with our ribbon going through the middle of the package, keeping the ribbon straight, wrapping it around. Then when we get to the middle of the package, we're going to take this tail and this amount of the ribbon that's coming from the spool, and we're going to twist it at a 90-degree angle, and then we continue wrapping the ribbon around the package. When we get it to a complete wrap of the ribbon around the package, we're going to clip it so that we've got a tail that we can tie it with. Then we're going to wrap it under exactly where this tail is coming from. This tail was the tail we started with. Now we're going to wrap our cut piece under that same exact spot, which gives us opposite corners to tie from. So we want to keep the ribbon as tight as possible, because it not only makes for a prettier package, but it makes the opening process a little bit more difficult. And that's not that the goal is to make it difficult, but the goal is to prolong the opening process, because that's the fun of opening a gift, is getting to it. So if it takes longer to get to it, the anticipation is a little bit higher. Tie a second knot, so you've got a knot, and clip the ends. Not too short, but leave enough so that the knot is not going to come undone. And now you've got your ribbon wrapped around the package. Then, because this package happens to be for a little girl, and not that this type of bow is for girls specifically, but little girls really seem to love, and babies in particular, they love what's called a pom pom bow. So I'm going to make a circle on the package that is approximately the size of the bow that I want to end up with. So I make the circle, and that looks about right for me. So I hold the circle in place, and I put one piece of tape. Doesn't have to be a big piece of tape, just make sure it's good and secure. And then I count the circles. This is one, so as I roll around and I can feel the tape when I make the circle, that's my number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Now, 15 is no magic number. It is for the size of the bow. Depending on the size of the bow that you make, it can be anywhere from 10 or 11 loops to, if it's a really large bow, you might go as many as 20 loops. Now you notice I get a little heavy-handed and my ribbon has buckled in the middle because I was holding the loops too tight. So if I loosen it up and then make my loops loose, I can retighten those loops by just holding it level on the table and pulling this tail. So now it's tight. I'm going to roll back around. Here's my original seam where I started my circle, and I'm going to mark that where I'm holding my fingers. That just means that I want to make that for sure one of my loops. So I'm going to give myself a little bit of extra and cut the bow at that point. Now, I need to make this bow into something that's going to be able to be tied here in the middle. Want to make sure that I'm not putting that spot right at the seam of my outside tail, and I don't want to have that right at the spot of my inside seam where I started my circle. So I am going to make sure that I take my outside tail and my inside seam, and that I'm going to bring those two together so that I make sure as I'm cutting the notch for my bow so that I know where to tie it, I'm going to cut first one end at an angle. This will create a notch in the ribbon where it will allow me to tie it. And you're not going to cut all the way through this end of the ribbon, because if you do that, you will end up with a whole lot of ribbon just cut in half. So you want to leave a little bit. The end of this cut should look like that. Okay, then we're going to flatten it out so that we get exactly the same length, and we're going to do the same thing to this end. Cut at an angle, and you want to cut a good amount into the angle so that you've got enough to work with. And you'll see once we bring the two ends together here that we're bringing now both of the ends that were notched together so that you've got ribbon all wrapped in a circle with notches cut in. Now you need something to tie it with. So you can take another piece of ribbon, or you can get just plain tying ribbon. I just happen to have some excess ribbon here, so I'm going to use that. So you're going to tie it once. And yes, I just used my teeth. All of the dentists in the world will not like that. Tie it once, and then tie it again. Now, if you notice, we have a package that has been tied in opposite corners. So when I put the bow on, in order to keep the tension proper on the ribbon and make sure everything stays secure, I insert the tying tail for the ribbon on the opposite corners that I tied with. So the first one goes in, and then the other one wraps around and underneath. And then you have the ability to tie your bow onto your package. I tie it down once, tie it again just for good measure. And some people tie it underneath to help lift the bottom ribbon loops to make the pom pom bow a little bit bigger. You know, you can if you'd like. It's not a requirement. It's all about how you want your package to look. I believe that if you've put a lot of time and effort into picking out a gift or making a gift with love from your heart for someone that you care a lot about, that the presentation of the package on the inside is just as important as the contents on the inside. So now we have our finished, ready to open circle of ribbon that's going to turn into a pom pom bow. I like to just lick my fingers. You can wet them with water, whatever. It just makes them a little bit more sticky, makes your fingerprints stand out. And you're going to alternate the loops and just pull them, hold the group of loops down, and take one at a time and just lift it up and separate it. And just continue to lift and separate until you have all of the loops on one side pulled apart. The last one you probably want to separate a couple of times just because it hasn't had as much tension on it. Then we're going to turn it around and do the other side, do the same thing. And you can see as you're opening the loops, you can see how the pom-pom effect is taking shape. Just continue to alternate the loops until they're all open. Then you can see some of them will be sliding inside of each other because that's how they were created and nested. So you're just going to turn a few, pull them apart, and pull apart again until you've got all your loops separated as much as possible, or until you've created the look that you want to have. So now you have a Pom Pom Bow. This is not a very good bow for shipping a package. It's a great bow if you're having Christmas local, you don't have to ship it, or you can ship it with the loops unseparated, and when it gets to its destination, then the loops can be separated. But that is a Pom Pom Bow on a Christmas gift. Then the tail that was on the ribbon, which is inside here, you can either leave it sticking up and cut it at an angle to leave it for a decoration as part of the package, and that's perfectly acceptable, or you can reach down in and just snip it off, and it's no longer evident that that was even there. It's just your bow. So there's your Pom Pom Bow.